Can I get everyone's attention, please? Good evening. I am Scott Bouk, President of the Long Point Country Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome all the candidates and the audience to Ward 1 for Meet the Candidates Night. As the Chamber, we are pleased to sponsor this event. So I'm just going to go by just a quick explanation of how the night's going to start. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and following that, Bill Bader will read a question to the first candidate. And after that, the second, third, fourth will answer the same question. After the second question is asked, it continues on. We have mentioned that if the answer is identical or almost the same, don't be afraid to move forward, as that will make more questions be asked during the evening. So we're on a tight time schedule. We're going to try to ask as many questions as we can, and at 2 minutes, the time will tell the candidate that their time is up, and they'll finish what they were explaining. We'll proceed then after with about a 5-minute break, and we'll do the same thing with the candidates for mayor. After the evening is through, we hope that everyone stays for a few minutes, and if there's any questions that the candidates or mayor candidates can actually mingle with the crowd. So thank you again for coming, and we'll start off with John.
Thank you, Scott. At first, I'd like to thank the Chamber, all their members, and their support staff for hosting this event. Again, this is, I believe, the 4th plus time that they've done so. I'd like to thank all the candidates for coming out and all the candidates for running, as well as the mayoral candidates on top of the Ward 1 candidates. And most of all, thank you to all the electors, yourselves, for showing interest in municipal politics. It has been a sad state in very many wards across our county, as well as across Ontario, that is not representative of what we contribute to our local municipalities' tax base and what we deserve as taxpayers and workers, employers in Ontario. My background, I have been in Norfolk.
What's your name?
Sorry, Scott. John Henderson. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. My name is John Henderson. I'm a resident of Long Point currently. I own properties both in Long Point and in Port Dover. I have, since 1968, been a resident of Haldimand, Norfolk. I have grown up, I have owned family businesses, employed people, and worked throughout both the time prior to regionalization of Haldimand, Norfolk, and to the disfractionalization of Haldimand, Norfolk at the time of 2000, when the government thought that was a great idea. We still to this day have joint expenditures and examples of those legacy expenditures, the dumps, health and safety. We have the health department. We have joint groups that work back and forth and continue to do so, some in a very great manner, others that we pay for on legacy costs alone. If you do not understand that, it is very expensive to run this government. I thank you for your time.
Can everybody hear me? My name is Tom Michelli, and I'm really happy to hear and see so many friendly faces that I've talked to over the last 2 or 3 weeks. That's really, really good. I do want to thank the Long Point Country Chamber of Commerce for arranging this event, and I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a retired teacher. I'm a grandfather of 4, which means I don't really have too much time to work, so that keeps me pretty busy, but I definitely want to make a contribution to Ward 1. I have lived in Ward 1 my whole life. I live on the Turkey Point Road. My mailing address has been RR1 St. Williams since I was 9 years old, so I can't forget it. Now, you know, I gotta say, I have been given so many great opportunities and so many great experiences as a resident of Norfolk County and of Ward 1, and it's time now for me to give something back to all of those people. I really appreciate the opportunities that Norfolk County has for everybody, but I know that in many of these areas we can do better. I have a few kind of key priorities that I really want to focus on. One of them is ensuring that everybody in Norfolk County, but particularly in Ward 1 in our far outlying areas, has access to high-speed internet. That's a very key thing. I also know it's very important for us to do the best that we can when it comes to solving some of the parking congestion and the other related issues that are currently on in Long Point. I know that for a lot of people, they also have their own concerns and their own issues, and I want to say that one of the things that I really am intent on doing is being an active listener and a real serious worker when it comes to getting things done as well as I can. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Doug MacArthur. Glad to be here. I'd like to thank the Long Point Country Chamber of Commerce for inviting me. Thank you to everyone coming out. When I first came in the door, I saw all the people and I went, wow, I think we got a horse race, guys. Get ready. It's going to be a long month. I'm from a very big family, but I was born and raised in Cambridge. Not a big issue. I've learned how to argue and fight. I've learned how to argue and bargain, negotiate, and sit down and read acts, because those are the ones that are being violated. Bylaw officers can't even back up what's been done. You've got other issues within the area, like the causeway. People are still talking about the causeway. You know, it's taking too long. It's got to get fixed. Get it straightened out. There's a fire hall right across the road. That's one little one. I still can't believe it's a 50-year-old building. It still hasn't been replaced. It's like, why? You know, that should have been done 15 years ago to support our firefighters. If anything, you don't want your fire department going down. It's a good way to build it up. I don't believe in increasing taxes 150% like one person said to me. I said, no. You've got to keep your status quo going, because you've still got contracts that are still in place, and we still have increases regardless. And you're looking, if you can keep your taxes down to 2%, 3%, that's great, but if we can keep them lower, that'd be fine as well. I ran because I looked at the council that was sitting there. To me, it was like an old boys club. You know, they went in, they yapped, they did whatever they wanted, but they never did anything. They never really solved anything for you. They didn't make Norfolk great, and that's what we have to do. Let's make Norfolk great again. Thank you.
We just have a quick announcement. There's a vehicle parked at the school on the sidewalk, hampering the accessible van, so they can't get the people out that are in the wheelchairs. Also, there's a truck parked in the accessible vans parking spot as well, and the lot and the tenant spots in front. So if someone thinks they might be the ones parked, could they just peek out the door there and just take a look, please? Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Mole, and like Mr. Michelli, I was a lifelong, like Mr. Michelli here, I was a lifelong resident of St. Williams. I've been out of this town for a year and a half in my entire life. I've never really been anywhere except for Norfolk County. And sorry, I can't call him by his first name. He was my teacher. I have to call him by Mr. Great teacher, by the way. About me, I am a single father of 4 amazing daughters. They are the absolute love of my life, and I live for them. I want to see this county better, and right now, I can't see any way that they're going to stay in this county when they finish school. There's just such a large proportion of children, they graduate school, they look around, and they realize there's nothing here for us. We need to find a way to make Norfolk County sustainable. As it is right now, people are leaving in droves. We're not getting the resources coming in, we're not getting the manufacturing jobs, we're not getting any high-tech jobs, period. So we really need to focus on that. But the problem is there has been so much infighting in council, nothing can get done. One of my specialties is I am really good at cooperating with other people. If something needs to get done, I'll sit down with them, we'll find a way, and we will make it work. I am sick of people butting heads and getting absolutely nothing done because they're getting paid to do what we need to get done. And if they're not doing that, they shouldn't be in council. The other thing is Norfolk County right now is really lacking in vision. You look at what our master plan is. Can anybody here tell me what our 5-year goal is right now? Probably not, because nobody really knows. We need to find a common ground on what we are going to be focusing on in the future, the things that we are going to do to make this place better. Until that happens, nothing is going to change. I was just at Bayfest on the weekend. Amazing. I love Bayfest. But it's been slowly dwindling. And it doesn't seem like the county really cares. It's hard for them to get funding. It's hard for them to even get acknowledgement that they are part of it. And it's dumb. It's part of Norfolk County. Bayfest will make things better, yet we're not getting help for it. It's silly and it's pointless, and we need to do something to make it better. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Peasel. I live in Ward 2, and a lot of people. John Peasel. I live in Ward 2, and my wife and I have owned Cortland Bakery for 41 years. Before that, I worked in a bank for 8 years, basically in the accounting department. I was sort of the cleanup guy. When a branch was in trouble, they sent me here. I cleaned up, I balanced the books, I got the security documents into place. So I was always used to a bunch of challenges. My wife and I have been married for almost 50 years. I have 2 great children, 3 great grandchildren. And the reason I'm running for council is that it used to be a lot more fun to be in business. Now with government regulations and the red tape and when you've dealt with some of the people that work for our municipality, I think some of these people should have been fired because they administer the laws differently between one person and another. If one person has to get a building permit, why doesn't the other person have to get a building permit? And the big problem with not following the rules and regulations is if some tragedy happens, for example, if an apartment is built without an inspection and there was a fire and that apartment was not inspected, sure, the owner might get sued, but because the county did not do their job, and I'm not talking about just collecting the business fee. With that business fee, we get to pay the people in the building department. But if somebody happened to die in an uninspected apartment, the county could be on the hook for millions of dollars. Our employees should follow the rules for everybody. I also had a situation where a building inspector actually quoted me a fictitious act. He said, well, I think it comes under the Homemakers Act. There is no such thing. I don't want any government employee to say to me, well, we're not going to make him get a building permit. What we're going to do, his exact words, we're going to screw him on the taxes. Anytime I hear a government employee says, I'm going to screw him, I want that man fired. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. My name is Michael Toth. It would be my pleasure to represent Ward 1 as a councillor. I feel that bringing transparency and accountability to Norfolk County is paramount. I think that the hiring practices in Norfolk County are biased. I believe that I believe that they are personable and to certain individuals. I think names should not entitle you to a position. I think it should be experience and education. And I think that that would drop our tax rate because we would hire people who are competent to do the job and would not, that would not leave our roads in a state of disrepair. I have over 30 years construction experience in infrastructure, and I think that the aspect of the causeway is ridiculous. It should have been maintained, and our infrastructure needs to be maintained. We're spending billions of dollars trying to play catch up on things that could have been maintained throughout the years. We have the people, we just don't have the experience and the qualification because people are being hired on just namesake and things like that. We're driving people away. We have educated people coming into our area and they're walking away simply on the basis that they can't get a job because they're not who somebody wants them to be. So I encourage everybody to bring your friends, vote. I don't care if it's for me, just vote. Make a change. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
First, I would like to thank the Chamber for this opportunity. Good evening, fellow candidates, special guests, ladies and gentlemen.
Who are you?
I am Dan Wagner. I am a 63-year-old retired farmer, a resident of Long Point, and I decided to put my name forward when Noel decided to retire from council. And this would be a good opportunity to thank Noel for his service. I have 12 years' experience of municipal council during the 80s and 90s in the neighboring municipality, and I believe that I can represent this ward. I served 4 years on the Grand River Conservation Authority and would be interested in serving on the Long Point Regional Conservation Authority representing Norfolk and Ward 1. I believe conservation is vital to Ward 1 and its residents. I am pleased to hear that the Causeway project is scheduled for 2019, and I'm interested in making sure that the internet and the other services are incorporated in that project. I have an open mind when it comes to the hub, and I know funding and provincial funding are key to that. So I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'd just like to acknowledge Dave Scott and Joel from Hub Media. They're here at the back. They're going to be posting this on Facebook under Vulcan Vote. That's it. That's what I said. Vulcan Vote. It's going to be on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow. They were going to live stream it, but it's just as easy to post it tomorrow. So thank you very much, Dave and Joel.
We figured that you folks might not know all these gentlemen, and we knew you would want to meet them, and we knew you had questions. My God, have you got questions? Now, it's an interesting point, and I'm going to start with this first question. I'm going to tell you what it says, and this gentleman here will answer the question, and then when he's had his say, the next person will have his say, and the next person will have his say. And if it's the same answer all the way down the line, they won't take up a lot of your time. We'll go on to the next question and so on. Here's the question. The very first question. We're having a real hard time How's that working? Now, if I get tonsillitis. All right, now this was a very, very popular question. What do you think is Norfolk County's #1 issue that needs to be addressed soonest? Sir?
Norfolk County and all the taxpayers of Norfolk County, the largest, most significant, and most debilitating challenge we have is that our capital tax reserves for capital projects is significantly underfunded. Depending on the figures that you see and how you put them together over 20 years and sometimes 10 years, we're in the ballpark of $110 million shy of what we should have in the reserves over what council and what you deserve to happen to your roads and infrastructure. And we are not even starting to talk about Norplex or a hub at this point. We have had a spending problem in Norfolk County, not an income problem. Long Point, Turkey Point, Port Dover growths in values, agricultural properties in values are in great shape right now. Simcoe is not too bad. Waterford's growth, Delhi is stabilizing, yet we don't have enough money going into reserves. We had a financial planner or a financial officer, John Ford, that talked our previous councils into all sorts of schemes. And he used terms that they were not capable or bothered to understand. He let them and led them to believe that they could afford to spend projects, your taxpayers' money, on things that we should not have been doing. We need to get back to basics, and that means putting money into capital. Our children, your grandchildren, will pay for this. We are unable to be competitive to recruit workers, keep families here, and it's based on the process of not having adequate capital to reinvest in our communities. Thank you.
I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Yes? Nice. You know, as I said at the outset, I really think that the #1 thing for Norfolk County in general, especially for Ward 1, is everyone having high-speed fiber optic cable internet. And for those of you who have high-speed fiber optic cable internet, you know that it allows you to do everything. There are so many places in Norfolk County where we don't have that type of thing. Where I live, I do not have access to that. Many areas, many parts of Long Point, as you know, are kind of like dead zones. They don't have it either. Many of the far-reaching areas, Cultus, Glenmire, Fairground, they don't have it either. And you know, I'm sure there are some people here who can kind of relate with me on this one. My kids are here. You know, it hasn't been that long since my house had what I called sandwich internet. You turn the internet on, then you go make yourself a sandwich. And you wait for the internet page to come up. Oh, good. Click the next page. Oh, I think I'll eat my sandwich now. Then you know, it makes it a little bit less painful, but you kind of know what I mean. There it is, really, really, and it makes it difficult for a lot of communication to go on, for people to really do what they need to do in Norfolk County. And I really think that the county should subsidize and encourage a proper business model for the right companies to make sure that there is access to that kind of thing. This is the 21st century, and I really think Norfolk has to walk into it.
Hello. what I think is the number one issue that we have to really get into, right off the hop, the first thing council's got to do, especially if they get rid of the old boys club, is find out what the heck is going on with our planning department and bylaw office and stuff. We've got to get these people doing their jobs and somehow have them believe that they're not over above your council. Your council's over top of them. That's who controls what goes on in this county, is your council. And the council hasn't been there. They've done their little things, but nothing big, nothing major. We've got to get this county working as a county again. And it's probably one of the first things council's got to do is get working, especially as a team, and bring everybody together and say, look, we're in charge and that's it, and lay it on the line to them. At no time can you really go forward if you haven't got a team behind you. And that's what you have to do, is bring everybody together and let's get going as a team. Let's get Norfolk going again. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm short. It's going to seem silly, but my biggest thing in Norfolk County, and it's a one-word thing, it's decisions. Right now, no decisions are getting made. You look at council, they'll be presented with something from the county staff, they'll say, you know what, this is what we think should happen. And then the council will bicker back and forth, nothing will get decided, and then what do? Let's hire a consultant. It's just absolute idiocy. We have spent such a large proportion of our taxes just on consultants. When we have the county staff that have made these decisions, they've made these recommendations, and then the council decides, no, we don't like that, we're gonna hire somebody else to do it. We have the people in this county, we have the staff. They know what they are doing. Why are we not listening to them? Sure, there is some people that try to overstep their bounds, but that's what their job is. If we're not listening to them do their job, why do we have them? We should be doing what they ask us to do. Sure, we should make conscious decisions. If there's something we really don't agree with, don't do it. But we need to make decisions. And if I get elected, one of the first things I'm going to do is I want to implement a 7-day rule. That when something gets brought up to our attention, we vote on it that day. There is no, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't decide upon this right now. I think we should make a decision right then and there, and then we have 7 days from that period to change our mind. But we have to make a decision because everything is stagnating. Nothing is getting done because they just keep pushing it off till the next time and the next time. And things have been going on for some things like Silver Lake, what is it, 9 years now? It's not acceptable. We need to make decisions. Otherwise, nothing is going to get done in this county. Thank you.
Most of my life, I've prided myself on being a numbers guy. And when I think about a balanced budget and what a balanced budget isn't, a balanced budget is spending no more money than we take in fiscal taxes. It is not raising taxes extraordinarily. It is not selling an asset. It is not hitting your reserve account. Those are not balanced budgets. We have got to realize we cannot grow our way out of a problem. Tillsonburg is a classic example. They have subdivisions on the west side coming out of their ears. The problem is they don't have any water. They're coming into Norfolk County and taking our water. The dumbest Indian never pitched a teepee by a dry creek bed. When you run out of water, you stop growing. And this is the problem with governments. They think that they can grow their way out of a problem. You cannot. It's good fiscal management is what we need. That's all I have to say.
Again, I believe the aspect of infrastructure, trying to maintain our infrastructure as opposed to playing catch up and trying to just build new, as opposed to keeping up on the repairs as we go on our road structure, infrastructure, buildings, things like that. I don't think just throwing it aside, casting it back to the public and letting them buy it at a surplus price or whatever. We need to maintain those. The Norplex obviously is an issue, but we still need to maintain the other facilities that we have. What are we going to do with those when we build the hub? Are we just gonna let them fall into the public's hands, and then they'll have to maintain them anyways? Why can't we maintain them? That's what our tax dollars are for, is to maintain the infrastructure that we have. If you want to be the best, hire the best and build the best. And that's what we have to do as Norfolk County. Thank you.
I believe the most important, the most important thing was on my schedule was okay. The causeway was on my first on the list for most important going forward, but it's coming along quite well and scheduled for 2019. I've been doing some research on the Silver Lake and the Quants Dam, and I've seen some terrible photos, and I know they've been on the back burner maybe far too long, and I think maybe that would be the first thing that not a Ward 1 councillor, but a Norfolk councillor would look at first. Thank you.
Are you ready for question number 2? I think that's very, very obvious. Gentlemen, these people are asking, how will you deal with the conflicting issues and needs of Ward 1? Tom? Yep.
Thank you, Bill. I think first of all, a lot of the issues are not really in conflict with each other. Many of them kind of boil down to one thing leads to another. The parking issue in Long Point, of course, leads to congestion, and it also leads to issues about whether or not there is appropriate bylaw enforcement. And then, of course, there's the question about whether or not then, because of all the limited beach access, whether or not there are enough porta potties, and then when they get them in there, are they too close to people's houses? And then do they make too much noise? A lot of the issues, there are no issues really that are in conflict with each other. They're all part of one growing problem there. In general, in Ward 1, by and large, the people I talk to, they are pretty happy with the way things are going. They sometimes comment that maybe we can do a little bit better job at community service. And if there are issues that are in conflict, that's where I hope one of my major skills comes in. I am a tremendous team player. I'm very good at collaborating with other people. And generally speaking, I get along well with other people. And, if you don't mind my saying so, people like me, okay? And so I really think that, these are issues, whenever there are conflicting issues or if they're all sort of complementary issues, all of them are the kinds of things that people, really good people, working together can solve. Thank you.
When we look at conflicting issues, you'd have to look at the seriousness at them, prioritize them, look at them so that you can try and resolve them as quickly as possible. Because the worst thing you can have is two different parties going against each other or something of that nature, or wards or whatever. But you have to get it resolved. I've got many years of negotiating in that. I had 26 years with the union. I spent 12 years as management. And that's all they used me for, was negotiating these things and resolving issues, and let's get them looked at right away. I don't see any problem on a lot of the issues that I'm looking at. They could be resolved very quickly and easily within this ward or within the county. And we should be able to get them resolved as soon as possible. Can you get 50 wards there? I didn't know that was an issue, but they need more chairs. Thank you.
Oh, just wait a minute.
Is there any empty seats beside you? Just put your hand up. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a few seats if you want to wiggle in there.
All right, conflicting issues. It pretty much boils down to my last answer. We need to make decisions. We need to get information, obviously. Once we get the information, we gather it all, we talk to each other, and then we make a decision. You're never going to make everybody happy. It's not going to happen. There's always going to be people that you make upset. Recently on social media, I was asked about Hastings Drive. I posted, I am not for new construction. I got some comments back that weren't very nice, but I also got some very informative comments. There was a couple of women that actually approached me afterwards and said, we have a lot of information that you're not privy to. Would you like to read it? I was so happy. I want this information. I can only make decisions based on what I know. If I don't have the information, there's nothing I can do about it. So whenever there is an issue that comes up, whether it be something simple like you can't get a street light up in the town, or something more complex like Hastings Drive, or something along the lines of, I know there is people in Port Rowan and Port Dover and other new construction where they still haven't gotten their property taxes. And it just comes down to information. If we get the information, we can talk to the right people and we can make decisions. Thank you.
Communication and cooperation can go a long way to solving some problems, but there are instances when you have to swing a hammer. I belong to a workmen's compensation committee, and there was a very unfair situation. Small businesses were being rewarded for good safety records with a 10% component. Very large companies were being rewarded with a 90% component. When I was on the committee, the man, and I still remember his name, Ron Lovelock, he said, John, you have a funny look on your face. What's up, eh? I said, I'm thinking about going down Yonge Street, hiring a lawyer, and suing the workmen's compensation, because what this is, it's discrimination based on the number of employees, and that's illegal. What happened from that, we went from 10% to 30% for small businesses, which meant they earned hundreds of millions of dollars. Big companies like Wrigley's Gum, Dimflemeyer's Cookies, Weston Bakery, they were not happy because they used the Workmen's Compensation Board as a revenue generating center. I helped small businesses by swinging the hammer.
I believe the conflict in Norfolk County is part of the problem because we have a hierarchy in community, and I think that we need to highlight the aspect of Ward 1 in our tourism aspect, in the beaches and things like that that we have. We have some natural resources that are amazing. I also believe that my ability to go in and advocate for you, the taxpayer, is probably paramount, because my opinion should be based on your opinion, not my opinion. I'm not here to highlight my agenda, I'm here to highlight your agenda. A vote for me is a vote for you. It's something that if there's an aspect where it's kind of like a majority rules. I mean, it's, if you're more passionate about a project as a community, I believe that that's where we should put our resources into that. Thank you.
Okay, hi. I've been giving this some thought, and the common complaint I've been getting is a lot of the issues facing council are kind of getting kicked down the road, and they're not being dealt with quick enough. And I think maybe And I know it might be easier to kick it down the road, but I think the new council will have to make decisions quicker, and not too quick, but 9 years on some of these projects is just too long. So that's my answer.
Why do I feel this is a loaded question? The needs of Norfolk and the needs of Ward 1, we have infrastructure issues. Highway 24 is a significant issue that needs to be done. It is now, and has been the last several years, on the books for 2019. It has not been pushed off, and I will ensure that it stays in the 2019 budget. It is a shave and pay from the edge of Simcoe down to 59, relatively easy project to do in a timely manner. The engineering is fairly straightforward, and it should, and I will ensure that it stays on the books for our issues down here to get back and forth in a fair way for doctor's appointments, shopping, the whole bit. That is a significant road to bring visitors, guests, campers, the whole bit down to Ward 1. The second thing that we need down here is to ensure that the causeway gets finished next year. The bridge and the roadway with infrastructure partnered in place to provide high-speed cable internet, fiber optic, if that is the option that is picked, to the village of Long Point. It will ensure that people in this community, like in Port Rowan and St. Williams, with the SWIFT initiative, will have the opportunity to stay here 3 seasons, work from home, work from their resort home. Campers, anglers, fishermen, and waterfowlers stay longer and spend more time in the community, spend more money in Port Rowan, spend more money in St. Williams. The conflicts in this ward, there are some. And one of the problems here, like in other centers in Norfolk County, we have had too many senior staffers flip-flop and give one person an answer and another person an answer. Give counsel and advice and the others. That puts a divisive nature in every community, and it needs to stop. Thank you.
How are you fellas holding up? We don't want to wear them out too much, do we? All right then. Question number 3. They want to know how you gentlemen, how will you support the Long Point tourism infrastructure? It's all yours, Doug.
With the Long Point tourism structure, it's an interesting area and how we bring people in, but once we get them here, we don't know what to do with them. That's what it looks like. Like on the long weekend when the police had to turn them around, an hour to go down, an hour to come back and say, get out of town. Somehow we have to accommodate these people. And we have to take look at what our structure's doing. Like they say about the causeway, let's get it built, let's get that road built, fixed properly. You might have to look at some more parking there. There is some areas that could be opened up a little bit. I know everybody likes their green spaces, but some of them have been used as parking before. And they could be opened up again. You know, it's a lot of things that we have to look at seriously. And to me, the Long Point tourism structure, it's not bad right now, but there is room for improvement. And I think we can do it very much. Thank you.
I actually agree with him on most of those aspects. We do need to get more parking, absolutely. You try to get down there. I went down there the middle of the long weekend, and it took me an hour and a half to try to find a parking spot. Driving there with 4 children in the vehicle, not a fun time, especially when it was like 30 degrees that day. Nobody enjoyed themselves. We did eventually find a spot. We had a great time, but it really spoiled it. So parking is definitely a major issue. The other thing is, Long Point is such an amazing place. It has all this biodiversity. It's recognized around the world as one of the best places for all these different types of animals and insects, and we're not taking advantage of it. How many signs do you see in Norfolk County bragging about all the biodiversity in Long Point? You really don't. It's unfortunate because we have so many things we can call upon. If we want to make it so we have more tourism in Long Point, we have the capabilities. You have so many different companies around the world that are looking for ways to sponsor these ecological developments. If that's what we want to do, let's get them on board. That way we can get them to spend the money instead of us wasting more money on stuff that, while it's a great idea, it's backfired a lot of times. So with that being said, yeah, I kind of lost myself there. No, we really just need to focus on all the great aspects of Long Point so we can start making more money off of that. Thank you.
There was a very interesting article in Maclean's magazine, and small towns all suffer from this. And walking up and down the streets in St. Williams here, I've noticed all the businesses that used to be here that are no longer here. You take a look at Port Rowan. They used to have a bank in Port Rowan. Langton, they used to have 2 banks. Small towns, businesses are moving out. Young people are going to bigger cities. We have this biosphere that's down here. Mother Nature and human beings never get along. The cottage owners, how many cottage owners here want to see a great big influx of tourists? They want to go down there and they want to use their cottage. In fact, if your neighbor rented your cottage out to some unruly people, you wouldn't like your neighbor. So I don't think that a lot of the cottage owners, there's 900 cottages down, I don't think they want a tremendous influx in there where you have parking problems and beach access problems and porta potty problems. I don't think that we need to get that much more in there. What we need to do is we need to be able to keep these small towns vibrant. When you drive around there, you look around, this is not the way it used to be. Our small towns are changing. We've got to find a way to retain our young people. We've got to find a way to make our businesses viable. I talked to a baker in Simcoe the other day. He went and he said, when we rented that space at the end of Robinson Street, that was supposed to redevelop Robinson Street. Let me tell you, there is 16 empty stores on Robinson Street. It developed nothing. We rented 22,500 square feet, I think that's the number, at a 10-year lease of $6.5 million. Let's not waste money like that again.
Well, I agree with the former speaker on a lot of aspects. I disagree with the fundamental that by closing off Long Point to tourists will make it more viable. I don't think that the cottage owners and things like that sitting in their apartments are going to, or in their cottages are going to make, you know, the people with the porta potties and things like that a viable aspect. There's a lot of infrastructure that goes into maintaining the tourism aspect in Long Point. And, excuse me, and it also needs to be maintained throughout Norfolk County so that people coming to Long Point will have the opportunity to come through the small towns and frequent the small shops and things like that. It will help us to build our downtowns if we make that, if we endorse Long Point as it should be. It is a world biosphere. It is recognized by the United Nations as such, and I think that it should be recognized as such by the locals as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to focus on the causeway and getting the internet down that causeway and for the infrastructure and also it's possible that natural gas could come down in the new causeway project. That's another thing they're looking into. So that's my focus. Thank you.
Long Point tourism. How would I support infrastructure to Long Point? For tourism, there's been a lot of attempts since 2010 to increase parking already. When the point was full and the OPP had to deal with too many cars on the Canada Day Civic Weekend, I think it states already that we're at capacity. In 1926, when the park took over the lands there and put a provincial park north-south, they capped the point. That hasn't changed, it's not going to change. The tourism down there is based and has always been based on anglers, waterfowlers, campers, and resident cottage renters or park stays. Most of the cottages and residents down there were in the park authority since the park inception. The focus should be, and to deflect from the question, the focus should be, why don't we talk about Port Rowan? Why doesn't Norfolk County and tourism under Chris Baird and Clark Hoskins talk about Port Rowan? It's a town that's been forgotten by a lot of the county people. A lot of the people from Long Point would gladly go there if, again, civil servants in between us would quit doing he said, she said. There is huge opportunity to redevelop and support a small community. If we can engage longer seasons in Long Point, 3 shoulder seasons to keep people down there, both anglers, waterfowlers, which are already into long seasons into December, cottagers, give us something to do. Give those people more encouragement into shoulder seasons. Keep the businesses open longer. They will be into Port Rowan to support, spend their money, give us infrastructure where people can stay with internet and work from home. 2-3 days a week, drive back and forth. That will support Ward 1's infrastructure, tourism, and businesses.
I do have to say I agree with a lot of the things that John just mentioned. I do, though, have to say that I think there are some options for improving the parking in some of the areas and to get a little bit more access to the beach that's going to be a little bit more attractive to people. One of the things that I'm sure many of you here know is that the overall daily visitor total to Long Point has gone down over the last 20 years or so. We're now at a stage where it's coming back a little bit, but it's not nearly to where the point that it used to be. And I think that also, John's right, if we can fix some of the situations and have a longer stay in Long Point, Port Rowan is going to do a lot better. Lots of other areas are going to do a lot better because people will be coming to Norfolk, and if we can improve infrastructure that will make things much more attractive to people, I think they'll want to stay here much more often. I was reading a Statistics Canada report that said that basically in Norfolk County, the average day trip visitor to Norfolk County spends about $35 a day. The way I'm trying to compare this to the numbers we could conservatively use, if we could increase through some improvements through infrastructure, the causeway, getting a little bit more of an improved parking situation and beach access in Long Point, $35 a day, if we could get 50,000 more visitors a year, which is not a big stretch of the imagination. It's a conservative figure, I think, at $35 a day. And I actually had to check my math on this a couple of times. It's $1,750,000 a year that we could be generating if we make these improvements. I don't know how we can say no to that kind of money.
I must compliment you. Your questions, from 1 to number 4, all have been very well thought out and very specific. This is question number 4. What will you do to ensure that the far west part of Ward 1 is provided the same opportunities as the rest of the ward? This includes Fairground, Frogmore, Cultus, Clear Creek. Ted, you want to start us off this time?
All right, we're about to talk about the Forgotten Lands of Norfolk County. I don't know how many people are actually aware of what Ward 1 is really made up of. Most of them, they're in a nice little boxed-in area. Ward 1, we basically go up to the 6th concession, and then we hit 59 Highway, and then we're everything west of 59 Highway up all the way north, up until Frogmore. It's a really convoluted spot, and it's really hard for you to focus on one spot when most of our area is, sorry? Okay, when most of our area is in a focused area like Long Point, Port Rowan, St. Williams, but then you have all these other far-reaching spots which are so far away, which honestly should be incorporated into Ward 2, but they're not, so they tend to get forgotten about. It's unfortunate, but when you have something that's, what is it? It's over 50 kilometers away that we span from one end to the other, and it's just such a far amount that people tend to just forget about them. We need more people to be vocal. That's the biggest thing. If the people from Frogmore, from Cultus, they start speaking up and saying, this is what we need, we will listen. But we need to hear from it. It's unfortunate, but it is the truth. If nobody says anything, nobody's going to do anything about it. They are part of the Ward 1, they are part of the county, and they should be awarded the same things that the rest of the county is. They haven't been for a very long time. You look at most of the roads back there, they're badly deteriorated. Nothing's being done about it because there just isn't enough vocal support for it. So if we want things like the roads to be done, we want more internet, then we need the people to speak up. Let's sign some petitions. Let's get council involved in it so we can actually do something about this problem. Thank you.
I really like this question. A couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from a fellow that runs a little general store and a gas station south of Frogmore. The fellow's name is Howard Stillwell. And what he complained to me about was that the polling station that used to be in the fire hall and fairground was not going to be operated this year, even though they had all the internet stuff and all the rest of the software that they needed to run an election. What I would like to see that's going to help the west part of Ward 1 is we should change our voting system. I think before council, it was brought up that about internet voting, we should at least have a mail-in ballot. When you get that polling station card, there should be a ballot you can mail in on the back part. We would have a far better voter turnout if you had a mail-in ballot as well as going to a polling station. And that's what I think the West End needs, is a mail-in ballot system.
I agree with Ted that the West End should have a broader voice. As I stated earlier, my voice will be the voice of the people. So if they bring it forward, I will move it forward. I can perpetuate what they perpetuate. And it's going to be, I think, something that would be beneficial. And I think that infrastructure is paramount in that end, as well as the tax base for small business, small stores, commercials, things like that. I think that there's a lot of industrial areas down there that could be used, brought back into perspective in a commercial and viable aspect. Thank you.
Well, I'm fairly familiar with this area. I have a small farm in Fairgrounds, so And yes, even I can get lost with those roads, kind of the angle they're on. So, but they do need some repair, and I think they are neglected a bit. So I think the new council will look at that very closely. Thanks.
As a representative for Ward 1, while representing all of Norfolk County taxpayers, but representing your money in all of Ward 1, I think the important aspects of the west end of Ward 1 need to be installation or reinstallation of at least one, if not two, polling stations in the remote communities out there. The distance the voters have to travel is an insult to them. It's too far. Those communities support those people for years. They support Norfolk County. They should be afforded that right. The alternate voting mechanism, I do believe, should be in place in Norfolk County before the next election, whether that be an electronic system, if it can be done affordably and secure, or a mail-in ballot. That is the clerk's job, and I will ensure the clerk is tasked with bringing that report to council for a decision prior to that next election. The third aspect of respecting the West End and involving the West End of Ward 1 is that we should have full bilingual, and I mean that by Low German, language peoples at all of the polling stations in Ward 1 and the new ones that are there, including the aspect of having them available in a mail-in correspondence for electoral purposes. Those people support our schools, they support our farmers, they pay taxes, and they work in this community. And we, as much as they choose not to vote in a lot of areas, we don't know if we are really truly affording them the opportunity and the welcoming to vote for our systems. Thank you.
While I certainly agree with making the electoral process easier for the residents of the West End, you know, it is a relatively small point compared to the rest of the issues that they face. Polling stations are something we're going to have to deal with every 4 years. And these suggestions I totally agree with, and I think they're important. But more importantly is the whole issue of making sure that when the county makes decisions about what we're going to spend our money on, that they occasionally make it look like they recognize the importance of the West End. Most of the people out in Fairground and Houghton and Cultus and Glenmire, many of them, they do most of their business in Oxford County. And that's because it just makes sense. And there are certain realities, geographical realities, that we probably have to accept. You know, it is a long way from Frogmore to Simcoe. You know, I don't think we can't fix that. But at the same time, maybe we can make sure that, you know, and as John mentioned, just in general, we should make sure we make every effort possible to take care of our German Mennonite population there. They are, in many ways, not very active citizens, and that's partly due to the fact that we have not encouraged their activity. So that is something I really think would be a very important thing. We need to have people who can liaise with them and make good contact with them, and also to make sure that occasionally, you know, projects, and we have to be reasonable about this, but some small projects that we decide are important for Norfolk County, maybe they could be located somewhere near the West End. Thank you.
When I take a little drive down the road with the wife and the dog in the car and stuff, I like going over into Cultus and Frogmore and Fairground and that, because it's a beautiful area. It's a nice area. And I have to agree, the roads are going to be the worst roads ever. It's like it's a forgotten area by this county, and I don't know why. And any representative that sat on council should have been banging on the doors to get this fixed. those roads should have been looked after over the years. And some of them are in pretty bad shape, and I've seen them myself. Because I do drive them. I go through Frogmore at least once a week and that. It's a surprise in the area. Like everyone's saying, Ward 1 is a very large ward. When you drive from here to go over to, right over to the far end of it, over to Road 55, that's a long drive. And it does take a lot of time. When it comes to elections, I don't understand how they established that the polling station was going to be right here in St. Williams for the advance poll for 2 days, and then one in Port Rowan for the actual election date. It was like, this is a big ward. There should have been at least 2 polling stations somewhere further west than that. It was like somebody didn't really do some thinking here, I think, and it's got to get straightened out, and hopefully with the new council we can get this straightened out right away. Thank you.
At this time, we would like to welcome the candidates up for a 2-minute summary of their thoughts from the evening. Oh, and please state your name again, and we'll start with John.
You know, I have thought of a long time before I decided to run for this seat on council, and I'm happy to say I was the first one to put my nomination papers in. And I will not use my opponent's youth and inexperience and take political advantage of it. But I would like to say something. I would like to say I would be proud to call any one of these people on this table my friend. The one thing I would like to say about taxation is that my mother-in-law has a house and the taxes on her are about $4,000, and a lot of people say, oh, a 2% tax increase is acceptable. But if you have a 2% tax increase every year for 10 years, your $4,000 tax bill will now be $4,975. I see a very graying crowd here, and gray hair is beautiful, but our pensions and our government Canada pension, are they going to go up $1,000 in 10 years? A 2% tax increase is not acceptable. A 1% should be our goal. John Peasel, Cortland Bakery.
Again, my name is Michael Toth, and my aspect is to represent Ward 1 to the best of my ability. In doing so, I think that infrastructure within Norfolk County needs to be maintained. I think if we're going to build it, we need to keep it maintained so that it doesn't run into disrepair. I think that we need to put forth our tax dollars in construction aspects instead of into consultants. And I believe that all the gentlemen here have a great rapport with the community, and I think that any one of them would be a great choice. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Well, hello, my name is Dan Wagner. So we'll start with that first. I'd like to thank the Chamber for this opportunity. I'd like to thank you for coming out. And again, I'd like to echo that any one of these men would probably do a great job. And I would as well. So thank you very much.
As a wrap-up, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I'll agree with Dan on one point. All of us, I think, would be great. Ron, my name is John Henderson, and I do want to be your Ward 1 councillor for the next 4 years. I do believe that my barometer for the next 4 years, my goal is that I want everyone in Ward 1 and everyone in Norfolk County to be able to feel more proud being a Norfolk County resident, being a Ward 1 resident. I want you to be able to tell your friends you live in a good county, you're being respected. I want you to be proud of the way our county looks, the way our roads are upkept, and the way that we are treated by our staffers in every single engagement, whether it be with one of our politicians and councilors, or one of our staff, one of our bylaw officials, or one of our OPP. We have a great county here. That's why we all live here. We choose to live here. There are some that are moving here. Dover is growing. We have a lot to be proud of. In 4 years' time from now, I want to be the person that makes you more proud of this county. The one thing that I will say, I will fight to keep the Langton, Norfolk County office open as a full-service branch of Norfolk County services, from permits, building, and every point of contact over the next 4 years. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Tom Michelli. It's good to see you all again. Have we started over? You know, I have to agree with all the candidates. These are all fine gentlemen, and I know that any one of them will do a good job. I'm so delighted, really, to see so many people here tonight. This really shows the amount of interest and the amount of enthusiasm that all of us have for making Norfolk County a better place. I know that, you know, we can do just about anything we want to do. That's why, as John said, Norfolk County is growing. We are doing better, but all of us know from the conversation we've had tonight that we can also do much better in some areas. And that's why I think it's important for us to kind of go forward and make those decisions. And, you know, I just want to say that no one will work harder than I will. I'm a good listener, I can play as a team member, and I also know that I have leadership skills that'll be valuable in that whole leadership and team building approach. And I really think that, you know, in general, I became a teacher because I really wanted to help people. Now that I've retired from that career, I have the time to really dedicate myself to the very serious responsibility of being a Norfolk County councillor, and I know that I will do the best that I can for all of you, and so I hope I can get your vote on October 22nd. Thank you.
Well, I guess this is my swan song tonight for you, just tonight though. I'm Doug MacArthur. I find it very enjoyable when I walk into Norfolk County and I smile and I say, I'm glad I live here. It's a great place to live. And I say that everywhere I go. When I go to family reunions and that, how do you like it there? Great. It's a great place to live. Always has been, always will be. And I can never put Norfolk County down for it. It's a great place to be at. There's a lot of things going on. And it just keeps on getting better, as far as I'm concerned. And I think, I hate to say it, but I know I've been banging the drums on it, but I think in some ways, council just didn't do a good enough job. I'm sorry, and I'll come right out and say it. They should have worked harder. They should have done something for you, the taxpayer. You are the ones paying the bills, and you should have had the right voice, the right representation to look after your situations, your problems, your issues, and get them fixed. And that's what we need today. We have to need a little bit of a kick in this council. We need a change in this council. October 22nd, I'd ask for your support and vote for me, but I'll tell you right now, like I said at the beginning, it's a horse race, and any one of these guys will do the job. They're there for you, to look after you, and that's the exact same thing I will do. I want to work for you and keep on working for you. Thank you.
I'm not bringing up a hair comment. So there was a comment right off the very bat about age and experience. Yes, age does bring experience. It does bring wisdom, and no, you tend to lose hair as you get older. I started a little bit younger than everybody else. But one of the benefits of youth is it breeds ambition. I want to see things get done. I'm going to push to make this county better. I want to see things get finalized. I don't want to keep pushing things off to the side. I want to see solutions be done. I want to start moving forward instantly. We have to work together. If we don't work together, none of this is going to get done. I've talked to a lot of the other ward councillors that are trying to get in. I've talked to a lot of the mayoral candidates, and there is a lot of them that want the same thing. They want to really make a change. And when it comes time for October 22nd, I think we are going to have a chance to really move forward. My name, by the way, is Ted Mole. Again, I forgot it at the beginning. Also, the hub. Nobody has mentioned it the entire time. We need to get started on it right away. We have to. I think the very first moment we get in, there is going to be people that will be against it. I fully understand that. But I also believe that the second we get in, we have to get started on it. If we don't, it's just going to get pushed aside, and we're going to have to make more decisions on whether or not we're going to fix the aging buildings. If we don't make some decision, no decision will get made. I do want to hear from the people, though. You all make up what is Ward 1. You are the ones that make the decisions. I want people to come to me. I want to hear it so that way I can make an informed decision. And like I said before, you're never going to make everybody happy. But you have to do what the majority wants. Thank you very much.
Ladies, gentlemen, are you glad you came tonight? And I think these gentlemen did a fine job in answering your questions, and I hope it was some help to you. And thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's give them a real hand.
Appreciate it very much. Are we done?
He wants to know if we're done. Tell you what we're going to do. Somebody talk to the right people, and we're going to have a 5-minute break, and that has treats and water and coffee at the back. It's set up while we set it up for the folks that want to be your mayor, and you can be thinking about what you're going to say to them. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.